This course is powered by Cybrary for Teams. Security leaders encounter new workforce challenges daily. Cybrary for Teams helps organizations build a cybersecurity-enabled workforce to tackle new challenges, handle security incidents, and prevent data breaches. If you'd like to learn more and see how other security leaders like yourself are utilizing Cybrary for Teams, you can schedule a free demo at the link below or search Teams in the navigation bar.
Well, I want to welcome everybody to our third session. It says 3 of 8 here. It's actually 3 of 6, and then we'll probably do another 6-pack later in the year. So if you're wondering where the 7th and 8th are, really, that's just a typo, my fault. But today we're going to focus on team dynamics. And it's kind of a logical progression from the topics that we went through during the first 2 sessions. So we'll dig in on that. And we also have a great guest for the latter portion of our discussion, my friend Chris Hodson from Tanium. So you're going to love hearing from Chris. It'll really be a lot of fun. But one thing I promised to mention is a little bit about the case study. So we'll have the folks just pop up in chat a link so that you know exactly where you can download and read the case studies. We created this fictional Alex Smith, who's the CISO of a company, and we tried to put Alex into situations that match the topics that we cover in each session. So I really do urge that you take a look at them. They're short. I wrote them, so they're very, very short, a couple of pages per case study, and then some discussion topics that you can use during a town hall or a meeting with your team. So I hope you'll take a look, and please let us have some feedback on those. We enjoy writing them, and I just hope they're useful for you. I know that I find them useful in just getting discussion going with a team. And the first one was about, some an IT operations manager having some need for the CISO to negotiate a problem with that IT operations manager. You can read that. And then the second case study is about conflict, which we talked about last week. There's conflict between 2 team members on the CISO's direct report staff. So I thought those were useful. I suspect a lot of you will resonate with those types of issues. So today, it's about team dynamics. And here's the problem. And it's a legitimate problem. That's that most of us, when we do cybersecurity, come to it because we're good at solitary things like hacking. Hacking is not really a team activity, and I get that there's U.S. Cyber Command, the nation states work together, and hackers yak on the internet to each other. But for the most part, if you are a good hacker, then you're pretty comfortable inside your skin. You have a lot of confidence, and you don't need to really rely on a lot of people. And yes, I do get that you get coaching and help. I know that, but for the most part, your tendency, if you come to this, is you're that person in 6th grade who pushes everybody else out of the way and you do the project yourself. That's what cybersecurity experts tend to be pretty bright and tend to be self-motivated, like to do things themselves. So when we talk about team, there's a lot of yeah, way too much of that. So we're going to focus on the importance here of learning to work with a group. And in fact, dare I say, to develop some respect and some willingness to be dependent on people who may not have technical skills. That's it in a nutshell. Those of us in cybersecurity tend to grow up in a world where the meritocracy is defined by your ability to understand Unix internals or to know more UDP ports than anybody else without having to look them up, or to be able to sit at a command line and do some interesting things on an operating system. Those are the things we value. And while they're important, those are not necessarily the kinds of things that make up for a great team member, as we will see in our discussion here. So let's, as we always do, start with a little sentence here to memorize, and it's team dynamics. Now, if you are an old physicist like me, dynamics means change. That's what it means. That's why I didn't write, team setup or composite or something. Dynamics means it's changing. So if you can take one thing out of this, if at the end of this hour you forget everything. By the way, I hope you listen to Chris. You're going to love listening to Chris. But one thing for me, then I hope you take out that teams change. That's it. And you'll see the examples that I use here. are that things change. And I come from a company, like I grew up at AT&T, where it's lifetime employment. Like when I retired after 31 years, a lot of people came up and said, hey, you decided to leave here early, huh? You know, I mean, it's people who stay 40, 50, 60 years. But that's not the norm. Normally in a career and in a company, an organization, an agency, people are going to come and go. So it is a team dynamic that you're dealing with as opposed to some setup or point in time where you can look at the setup and you can make some characterizations about the team without recognizing that teams change. So keep that in mind. Now here's a model. It's going to be like the Nike swish here, or like Corona recovery graphs. And it starts with the concept of forming a team. Some of you have seen this, but let's go over it because I always like to do a model, right? Each week, I always look for some analytical or mental model that's useful that you can memorize and then maybe use with your own team, or you can see if it makes sense. But when you form a team, that's usually an act that is driven by a need or something's happened. You've broken some team up, or a new executive's been brought in. You put a team around him or her. Whatever the reason, you'd like the team to be formed because of something positive, right? I always like to say, we have this opportunity. Let's put a team together and go take advantage of it. If a team is put together to solve a problem, I get it, but that's not as much fun. By the way, those of you who work in cybersecurity companies, if you're a vendor, it's not great if the purpose of your company is to stop threat X. It's much better to enable something in the face of threat X. So try to positive your negative if you can. But you form the team, and then inevitably what happens is it's a mess. And that's kind of the storming thing. So the fact that there's this swoosh going down implies directionally on the screen that presumably something lower on the screen is not as advantageous or effective as something higher. So you go from forming down to storming, meaning everybody's swirling around, figuring out who's doing what, working things out, getting processes put in place, figuring out what to do. In my own company, my little Tag Cyber, I think I'm here. Like I formed a team a couple to 3 years ago, and now we're storming. We're so busy, lots going on. Everybody figuring out. We're hiring some people, and it feels a little bit chaotic at times. But that's the way teams work. You form a team, and then the sky parts and the clouds go away, and everything's perfect. If you did that, I don't know what planet you're on, but I've never seen a team put together that way. It's always, you form them with the best of intentions, and then there's always a period where things are a little messy, but then everybody says, all right, enough is enough. We need some process here. We need to improve this. We need this person going to be in charge of this, and we're going to stop doing that. We're going to improve this and improve that. And you start feeling pretty good then. It feels like you were in storming. Now it's feeling better. You feel like they're just pretty legit. And then just when everything starts feeling great, you perform, but notice the curve starts like any S curve to level off. And the reason it levels off is because teams don't last forever. They come and they go. And that's fine. That's what we mean by dynamic. Things are changing. Things are adjusting. Things are moving. Things are, in some sense, shifting from one to the next. But this swoosh, this Nike swoosh, you should think of your career as maybe being part of, I don't know, dozens, hundreds of these. Like it's pretty rare if you said this was your career, like you start at age 20, you're storming at age 30, you norm at age 40, you're performing at age 50, and they put you out to pasture at age 60. It doesn't work that way. Like this is more lots of different teams that come and go, and they all go through this. And some go from forming to storming and can't get to norming. It's just too much of a mess. Everybody quits, it's gone. Some of them get to performing and continue for a long time. But usually it's a swish that levels off and is replaced very quickly by a new team with a new mission. Think about how many times Apple as a company has gone through in some more or less different S curves here. It's not only common, but it is welcome. Like that's kind of the whole idea here of understanding team dynamics. They form, they exist through some dynamic need, and then presumably they move on. Let's look at a couple of examples.